reflecting on nonviolence. To act nonviolently is first and foremost not an act without violence. Say what? If violence is a difficult issue to address, it often seems that nonviolence is even more so. Nonviolence is a particularly controversial concept because it's so closely connected to such ideas as weakness, naivete, and passivity. The concept is definitely gendered, as feminine, relevant to the private sphere, yes, but useless, even dangerous in the public domain. Many of us see no real alternative to violence when we face threats or confront injustice. Thus we fear violence, would like a more peaceful world, but remain very ambivalent about violence. The common idea of nonviolence as being the absence of violence, rather than something in itself, adds to this picture. If nonviolence is an act without violence, then sleeping, walking your dog, and drinking coffee with a friend must be acts of nonviolence. Nothing interesting, significant, or powerful here. But nonviolence theorist and activist Stellan Vinthagen's quote, in line with Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mandela, and many other proponents of nonviolence, points to something much more. Nonviolence is not simply an act without violence, but it must also be against violence. Passivity in the face of systems of injustice is participation in violence. On this issue, we favor sociologist Stellan Vinthagen's argument that the concept has no significance unless we view nonviolence as an action that is, simultaneously, both without violence and against violence. Revisiting our assumptions about nonviolence and violence can be difficult, and we should state right out that this project is not promoting pacifism. Ultimately, all we are saying is that nonviolence theory and practice has value in the classroom, a space where hopefully all of us agree should be a space without violence. However, most of us are very skeptical of the potential of nonviolence, and expect your students to be equally dismissive as well. So it would be useful for you to look a little more about the practice of nonviolence in political conflicts. There is much that will surprise. Between 1900 and 2006, nonviolent campaigns worldwide were twice as likely to succeed outright as violent ones. All nonviolent movements that gained the active and sustained participation of 3.5% of the population succeeded. The forgotten history of nonviolence reveals the difficulties governments face in confronting strong nonviolent movements. Indeed, efforts to infiltrate nonviolent groups and shift them towards violence are common. This is because non-threatening people putting themselves at risk for a cause they believe in profoundly moves us. Few images are as well known as the famous one of an unidentified man standing in front of a row of tanks in Tiananmen Square in 1989, just before the government's massacre of nonviolent protesters, mostly students, began. Who are you rooting for? The image so frightens the Chinese government that one activist effort in 2013, 24 years after the event, to rework the image led to an immediate attempt to block all online searches with the word "big yellow duck." How does nonviolence work? Sociologist Stellan Vinthagen's recent work is giving us more insights into the dynamics within nonviolent struggles. Beyond the bold, visible actions that seek to demonstrate large-scale opposition and challenge the legitimacy of those in authority, successful movements also use more subtle methods, and it is these that have value for the classroom. As educators committed to raising provocative social issues in the classroom and increasingly becoming concerned about the potential for disruptive and angry reactions from some students, nonviolence theory and practice offers important insights. The strategy of nonviolence seeks to create change within extremely divided social climates, where fear, hatred, and contempt of the other predominate. So in situations far more polarized than anything likely to occur in our classrooms. So what lessons does nonviolence have for the classroom? 1. Reason alone rarely moves people to change deeply rooted ideas. Appeals to emotion are needed. 2. People do not open up to the position of others when they feel threatened, ridiculed, or insulted in any way. Social psychology provides much support for the nonviolent activist commitment to treating the opponent as an equal, even a friend. 3. It is difficult to open up to new ideas. Psychological resistance is to be expected. The challenge, therefore, is to find methods to surprise us. Engage in unexpected ways before our psychological barriers are activated. Bringing art, storytelling, and inspiring examples of nonviolent activism into a research-based discussion can create such openings. 4. Exploring the concept of power and nonviolent activism with your students helps them see how their everyday actions are meaningful. Nonviolence theory offers an inherent critique of power in society. It is not simply top-down, but ultimately rests on the cooperation of the population. Contemporary theorists see power in even more complex ways, illustrating how power relationships in society are continuously being reproduced in our everyday habits through our beliefs, feelings, and actions. 5. With this pedagogy, we encourage our students to create works of artistic activism, particularly ones that at the same time subvert a form of violence and reveal a more desirable alternative. In other words, to engage in actions that are without violence, against violence, but also beyond violence. Nonviolent movements can effectively challenge the status quo, but they also have the power to inspire us to believe in something better. The sit-ins of the civil rights movement were not simply breaking the laws and practices of segregation, but they were also enacting a better future, one of all peoples sitting down together as friends. If this inspires you, we invite you to delve deeper into this website and our pedagogy.